everyone, it's Rebecca here and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. In today's video, I am building a massive modern penthouse for the Landgraabs. I have moved them to San Myshuno for my save file, and I have been building this lot on and off for almost 2 months now. So the footage you're going to see, it's going to be all over the place. It's not going to be very chronological. I'll be jumping all over the floor plan. And there was also, unfortunately, quite a bit of footage that I didn't end up recording. I wasn't sure when I started this if I was going to keep recording because I got a little bit tired of it halfway through. And then when I found my stride and figured out what I was going for, and also when I decided to move the Landgraabs into this lot, I started recording again. So there is some footage that won't be shown, unfortunately, but I will try to explain as best as I can what you're seeing on screen. So like I said, this is going to be for the Landgraab family, and I've decided to move them to San Myshuno because I think that is a slightly better fit for them as opposed to Oasis Springs. I think if it was up to Nancy, she would want to be in Oasis Springs, and maybe there would be some tax advantages to being out in that area as opposed to the expensive city. So this would also be maybe a scale that is a little bit smaller than what they could afford if they were living in a more rural area or further outside of the city, but it's still a massive, massive penthouse. So it has 3 floors total. It does have a covered outdoor pool. It has a gym and a basketball court, a huge library/study, and private offices for both Nancy and Jeffrey. It also includes 2 guest bedrooms, a pretty large bedroom for Malcolm, and yeah, lots and lots of room. Like I said, even though this does feel a little bit smaller than maybe what the Landgraabs would have, as I'm guessing they are the most affluent family in the Sims 4 universe. But yeah, I definitely wanted to go for modern. As I had said, I started building this not with them in mind, but they are a good fit for this. Their home in Oasis Springs was very modern, and I think both Jeffrey and Nancy prefer the modern style over anything traditional. Jeffrey maybe is a little bit more utilitarian, and I think Nancy likes the clean lines and is probably very easily influenced by things that are trendy. So she probably loves Kim K's house and loves the beige and grayish of it all. But there is going to be some nice earthy colors in here. I did originally have the lighter floorboards, but here you can see I'm changing them to be a little bit darker. At this point, I figured out that I wanted to go for a bit more of an earthy color scheme in the house, and I'd also decided that I wanted there to be some indoor foliage. So right now you can see that I am working on a landing. This covers 3 floors, and we do have some indoor bamboo that sits on the first floor. And this staircase is accessible through the living area. So there will be 2 sets of staircases, one by the entrance and then one is here kind of in the back. And I wanted to make sure that there were enough stairs for the Sims to be able to navigate and move around. Since this is a bigger build, I didn't want them to be having to travel across the entire home in order to get downstairs. And I also did, this time, build some space for custom content elevators if you want to put them in. When I was building my my luxury Hollywood mansion, I did end up retroactively fitting in some space if you wanted to put in like Ravishing's elevators, for example. But I remembered that this time, so I made sure to have a little bit of a nook near the entrance that also spans all 3 floors, where you can put in a custom content elevator that would be functional. So there will be room for that. So 2 staircases and an elevator as well. What you're seeing on screen here is the master suite bathroom for the parents. And this is a fairly large bathroom. It's very modern, has a huge walk-in shower, which you see on screen right here. Way too much room for a walk-in shower, but it is what it is. Ideally, I would have wanted to lower that into the floor, as I think it would be kind of annoying to deal with water getting everywhere, but because this is on the second floor, I wasn't able to lower that, and I didn't want to create a platformed bathroom either. And I did notice while I was building their bedroom, they do have a fairly large suite, so it does have 2 huge walk-in closets, and in the bedroom and in the closets, there was a really weird lighting glitch that kind of made the room feel like it was backlit in a really weird way, and it also really messed with the lighting on the built-in closets. So I don't show as much footage on that just because that lighting was really bothering me. You'll see it a little bit later on in the video, so you'll see what I mean, but that is a little bit unfortunate. I think it might be due to the platform that I have on the first floor. I did lower into the ground, into the foundation, so that might have messed with the lighting a little bit. I'm not quite sure, but thankfully it doesn't span the entire second floor, so the lighting does look okay. But yeah, just keep that in mind. If you place this lot, there might be some lighting issues on the second floor. Here you can see I've added a sauna. This is the third floor. On the third floor is going to be Malcolm's bedroom. There is this spa, there's a gym and a basketball court, and every single floor also has some balconies out the back. And I did try to honor the shape of the building that we're building on top of. So it kind of has 3 tiers in the same shape as the original building. This is a really cool feature here. I have a 3-story tall window. I'm using the glass wallpaper that we got a couple of months ago now, and that way you can see the tall bamboo from outside, and you get a lot of really nice natural light there. Here you're seeing where Jeffrey and Nancy's offices are. So they both have really huge offices. I don't know if they would necessarily do a ton of work from home, but I did create a club for Jeffrey. So I think he would probably have his coworkers come over and work here. And then Nancy's is a little bit more private, and I imagine that's because she does some more shady dealings than Jeffrey. I've also changed their careers, so I put Jeffrey in the mechanical, or I think maybe computer engineering track. Yeah, I think I put him as a computer engineer, and I wanted him to be more of like a Bill Gates type of figure, but I wanted him to still be really interested in the nitty-gritty of it all, and he still likes programming and he still likes robotics, so I still want him to be involved in that and work on those skills. As for Nancy, I had her quit her career as well. I think she was in the criminal career track, but I put her in, I'm not remembering now if I put her in the business career or if I put her in I was debating between a couple of different careers for her, either the politician career or the business career, or maybe even law. I put her in social media, the public relations career. So that's what I did for her. And I think that suits her fairly well. I wasn't too concerned about the job that she would have. I just didn't want her to be a criminal. We'll have other Sims in the Sim file that will work in the careers that they were originally in. I think Jeffrey was originally like in the Space Ranger or something. I don't remember. Anyway, it was fun and goofy, but I wanted to have slightly more realistic careers for this save file. So yeah, I switched their careers. Anyway, what you're seeing on screen now is the living room, and you'll see a lot of screenshots for this area. This is definitely my favorite part of the entire home. I really get the lighting really specific, and because it's got this huge covered pool next to it, it doesn't get any direct sunlight into the living area. The kitchen next to it does, but the living room itself doesn't, so it's super moody at night, and it's just really cozy. And I think it's probably the part of the penthouse that feels the most like a penthouse to me. Like, it feels like something that's built in the city within the restraints of like a structure on top of a tall building. So I really like how cozy it is, and like I said, how moody it is. But now you're seeing the kitchen, which is right next to the living room. There's a dining room to the right of what we're seeing here on screen. But this actually ends up, for a while, being a pretty small kitchen. It's the footprint that you see now. I originally thought about putting an island in the walkway from the entrance to the dining room. But when I originally put it down, I thought it took up too much space, and I wanted there to be lots of open space, which I think is realistic in a lot of interior design, especially for a huge mansion penthouse like this. But then as they kept building, it didn't really seem realistic that a penthouse of this size would have such a small kitchen. The scale just wasn't right. So I do end up adding a kitchen island that you will see a little bit later on in the video. But like I said, this footage is jumping all around. So now we're in one of the guest bedroom bathrooms, and I am just placing towels in the same way that I did in my Italian designer mansion. I really like those sinks from Businesses and Hobbies, but they have these cardboard boxes in the shelf that I prefer to cover with towels, which is very nice and easy. You can do it with just the 9 key, but you can also use tool mod to get it a little bit more accurately sitting on the shelves. So that's a good way to get a really cool sink into the bathrooms and make it actually work. I'm also using the same trick that I used in my Hollywood mansion build a couple of weeks ago. I am using the wall shelves from the sleek bathroom, and I'm placing them behind the counters, and then I'm raising them up by 0.1 with a tool mod, and that way you get a little ledge behind the counters where you can put clutter if you want. But I thought that was a really nice feature, and it's a good way to create a lip against the wall that is actually functional, which I think is a really cool feature. Here you're seeing a theater room, and this is mostly just because I had a large room on the ground floor, not the ground floor, the first floor of the penthouse. I didn't really know what to do with it, and I decided to just put yet another TV screen. There's a lot of TVs in this penthouse, but I thought it'd be cool to have just like a dedicated theater room. Just rich people nonsense, you know how it goes. Pretty straightforward and very nice and functional. Always a good place to have another place for your Sims to go that isn't the nicely designed living room. So if Nancy has her way, then all the video gaming takes place in the theater room and definitely not in the living room. Now we're seeing a little bit of Malcolm's bedroom. I gave him a little hideaway in his closet where he has the spying equipment from the Strangerville pack, and I also pulled out that really creepy decal from the Lovestruck pack that has a bunch of photos that have like X's and hearts over them. I don't really know what the implication is there for Malcolm. He is an evil sim, so, you know, it could be a number of things. I don't think it's necessarily nefarious, but I did purchase some bugs for him so that he could bug some of his classmates. So I'm going to have that set up for my save file so that he can spy on some people. You know, he doesn't have great boundaries, that kid. You know, I don't think he he didn't have a lot of attention from his parents growing up. They were busy with their careers and things like that. So that's why I put that in there. And I just thought I did want a little bit of goofiness, you know. I think I have to remind myself that it's okay to be goofy for this save file. I do want there to be realism, but I am eventually going to be building for occults because I do have the vampires and the werewolves pack. So I do want to make sure that I'm still having fun with it and being goofy where I can. So I thought that would be fun gameplay to do with Malcolm. You're seeing a little bit more of Jeffrey's office here. In my save file, I have created his and Nancy's family history, and Jeffrey was raised by his mom in Chestnut Ridge. So I do have some items from that pack and from that world, and when I do a video explaining my Landgraab lore, I will get a little bit more into the details of how Jeffrey grew up. But I can tell you that the family name that they have currently is not from Jeffrey's side, and that on Jeffrey's side, we have a family member who is in touch with Johnny Zest, and has a much better relationship with him than his actual parents. So I'm still really looking forward to sharing that. Like I mentioned in my last video, I'm working a lot on the Landgraab lore. So a lot of what you're seeing in this video is just building off of the characters as they already exist in the game. I might change some of their traits, but I haven't thought too much about it for now. That might be something that I do near the end of releasing a version of this save file, but I haven't really gotten to that yet, like I said. But yeah, this is a tiny safe, and it is next to Malcolm's bedroom, so this is on the 3rd floor. This was a last minute addition, so I definitely didn't have maybe the room for it that I normally would have, but I imagine that they actually have an off-site safe that is a lot bigger than this. So this is just the stuff that they want to make sure that they have in their home, and then maybe there are some other things that they have under even higher security in like their own private bank or something like that. Where they just have a room that's just like filled to the brim with money and gold bars. Not much sure. That might be a fun build too. But here you see the kitchen island that I'm finally adding. So that does definitely make it seem like they have a more expansive kitchen. I think it just makes sense that they would have more counter space and places to prepare. And I also thought that this might be a cool feature to have, just because that way you have a place to like serve things. So, you know, if Nancy's hosting girls' night, she has a caterer, you know, and maybe this is where they serve the food, but the caterer can stay in the kitchen while they're cooking. So yeah, I don't think it's a ridiculous feature. Here's the lighting issue that I was talking about earlier. So I tried to counter the weird lighting on the closet with some floor lights. It helped minimally, but this doesn't affect the entire 2nd floor. So like I said, it might be because of the lowered platform below the closet, but I'm not entirely sure about it. So it doesn't look great. I wish it didn't do that. I did think about replacing them with the cupboards that we got from the latest kit, the mudroom kit, but they were just a little bit too classic. So I wanted it to be fully modern in this home. Like there's hardly any like traditional elements besides the items that Jeffrey is bringing from his childhood and from his memories in Chestnut Ridge. So I wanted everything else to be very modern and very sleek. We're seeing a little bit more of Malcolm's bedroom here. He's got a huge projector TV, all kinds of gaming systems. He obviously has a large setup for his computer as well. And I do think he enjoys basketball. So I put a little basketball on the floor there as well. So he does get use out of the basketball court on the top floor. Adding some curtains as well. I have noticed that the curtains on the right-hand side of the room have been disappearing pretty regularly. I don't know why. It might be because of the half walls on the other side of the window, but I've had to put them back a number of times, so that's a little bit irritating. So just note that when you place this lot, those curtains might disappear. So sorry about that. I don't know how to make it stop. I really like the blue light, or the whitish blue light that I've added here. It's just a very cool, literally cool color to have in his room. I think it suits him very well. I did a build for the Landgraabs a couple of years ago now. This was before the base game refresh that we got, but I remodeled the Landgraab house, and it's still on my gallery if you want to take a look at it. But when I was doing Malcolm's bedroom in that home, I went for like a light bluish color scheme for him. I think a lot of his clothes that I selected for him in my makeover are also kind of light blue. I thought that was a good color for him for some reason, so that almost feels like a little homage to that original design. Here you can see the library. Not that expansive for a library. It's mostly just windows, but it's still a very good room to get your logic skill up or sit down and read and be further away from the noise of the living areas. So I really like that. And now we're finally working on the outside. This is one of the last areas that I felt like tackling. To be honest, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with this area. It was just kind of a large open space, and it wasn't really speaking to me. I wasn't feeling very inspired about it. Besides the pool, which was one of the first things that I put down, and I knew I wanted that there, but I just started filling it with the items that I would expect to see on a large outdoor patio like this. So I did an outdoor kitchen with the barbecue, which is a classic. And then I wanted to do a lowered area around a fireplace. So you can see me trying to configure that here on screen. I did have to raise the fireplace when I moved the platform around a little bit later. And I haven't play tested that yet, so I don't know if that's functional. Typically fireplaces do work, even if you have them raised on a platform that is like one level above the ground that the sim is standing on. So I think it should be fine. You can see that here now, but I will adjust that for the final upload if that doesn't work yet, because I am still playtesting this very large home. There's not a ton of things that I'm not sure if they won't work, because this is so minimalist, not full-on minimalist, but it's definitely not a cluttered home. And there's plenty of room to move around, but there's just a couple of other areas that I want to check and make sure that they work. Adding some decorations here in the library. I do love the earthy color scheme for this home. So we've got a lot of brown, green, black, and gray, as well as the creams, which I think are very much Nancy's doing. But it's a super cozy home, and especially at night, I find it really lovely. The opposite of that would be the hallways. I actually do love the hallways as well. That's one of my favorite parts of this build, is the hallways. They are stark white, and we've got a couple of seating areas. You can see one of them here on screen. When I was thinking of how to fill this room, I was thinking of ridiculous mansions and penthouses that I've seen on TV, and I thought you can always use another seating area. For some reason, there's always random seats and benches, in addition to like the hallway tables. So I added plenty of those around the space. Maybe not the best for Sims 4 gameplay, because if your sim like picks up a book, they might end up sitting randomly on one of these chairs, but they look good, and I'm going for looks, and I think it looks nice, so I'm very happy with that. I also love this particular seating area. This is on the 3rd floor. It's right out of the fake elevator and next to the basketball court, and it's just a really cool area. And obviously the views are crazy out of every corner of this home. I kind of thought maybe near the end that I didn't put enough, which might be a strange thing to think, but the side of this home that shows up when I do the gallery preview looks really like it's lacking in windows. And I'd imagine that if you're building this high up, you would want to utilize the views as much as possible. But even in these penthouses, there always has to be, structure, and there are things built into the walls that are required in order for this to be safe and structurally sound. So maybe that's what we're seeing. I think that's maybe something that I really like to think about, but sometimes gets lost when you're building. It'd be fun to have those building challenges where you had to consider things like structure. But of course that might limit creativity, so maybe that's not the best idea. But it is fun to think about. So yeah. Just doing some final touches to the kitchen. This was a very blank wall, and I thought it might be a good place for some shelves. There's not a lot of cabinets in this kitchen. It's mostly lower cabinets, so just wanted some space above the counters where they can store their favorite things. But as you can see, it's super minimalist. There's like 3 items up there. So yeah, mega minimalist. And then we're just wrapping things up with some landscaping on the outside. I actually ended up cutting more footage than I thought I would for this build. So I've already run out of time, even though I have way more to talk about. But we'll cover that in the Landgraab lore video, which I don't know when that will come out. Maybe it'll be in a couple of weeks, but I do hope you enjoyed the build. I hope you enjoyed my rambles. Let me know what you think. Thanks to everybody that has subscribed and commented. I really appreciate you, and I cannot wait to talk to you all in the next video. Bye-bye.